They are the restaurants that we cherish and hold a special place in our hearts, where warm and welcoming staff greet us with a smile and make us feel like cherished guests. These are the establishments that whisk us away on a culinary adventure, and no detail is overlooked in offering extraordinary dining experiences. It is where we choose to toast our achievements and celebrate milestones with our loved ones. They are the distinguished restaurants of North America, and every DiRōNA has a story. Meet Lee Morcus, a second-generation restaurateur and the driving force behind the iconic Kaiser Grille in Palm Springs. With deep roots in the restaurant industry, Lee has continued his family's legacy, bringing passion and innovation to every aspect of his business. Under his leadership, Kaiser Grille has become a beloved staple in Palm Springs, known for its exceptional California cuisine, warm hospitality, and a commitment to quality. With decades of experience and a dedication to creating unforgettable dining experiences, Lee Morcus has earned a reputation as one of the region's most respected restaurateurs. Welcome again to another episode of Every DiRōNA Has a Story. Today's episode is special, as they all are. Today we're with a real gentleman with some deep-rooted family legacy in the California restaurant scene. I'm joined today by Lee Morcus from the Kaiser Grille in Palm Springs, California. Lee, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Now, Kaiser Grille, I know you're renowned in the Palm Springs area, but your family history really travels back quite a ways in the restaurant industry. Tell me maybe where it all began.
Oh my gosh. It started in old Lebanon, really, with my grandparents and my father. But if we fast forward, my grandparents here in America from Lebanon had a supermarket with an old school butcher shop. My grandfather raised cattle and chickens and grew his own feed, alfalfa and hay. And my grandmother cooked 3 meals a day and made her own bread, and everything was from scratch. So if we start with my background, I grew up in her kitchen. I grew up in the grocery store with my grandfather and my uncles and my father, and grew up on the farm. So my food is, I was born into it. I didn't have a choice. I never had to figure out what I wanted to do or be when I grew up. I was in food all my life, so still am.
Now, restaurants in the family, was Carmel the first location?
No, my father started building supermarkets in the early 60s and then got into Vail, Colorado in 1962, 63, the very first season they opened with a grocery store. And then he built a hotel, and, I'm an owner's son, so I'm running around in the stock room of the grocery stores. And by the time I was 8 or 9, I'm working in the hotels, cleaning swimming pools, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, running dirty and clean laundry, emptying garbage, all the grunt jobs. And, here I am now, 66 years old, and I still do those same jobs. So, that's how it started for us, or for me, is, just growing up in a family business. Some of my fondest early memories are in my grandfather's butcher shop, learning how to scrape bone dust off of steaks and grind hamburgers standing on wire milk crates. And this was old school, where you had sides of beef and whole hogs and a really cold meat cooler. So this was old school stuff, and we're still old school today in the way we do things. I talk about my grandfather. If you heard about organic and sustainable agriculture and regenerative agriculture and all of this stuff, he would be churning in his grave, because there was no other way when I was a kid, Scott. That was just the way it was. We didn't have technology. We didn't have pesticides. We didn't have fertilizers. We had none of that. Everything was old school, scratched. Mother Nature took its course. And, so that philosophy still holds true with me today, and how we operate and how we source. Product integrity matters. deeply.
No doubt. Quality, I know, is a big thing and mentioned through your website. Kaiser Grill Palm Springs opened which year?
Well, our first Kaiser Grill opened in March 17th of 1992, St. Patrick's Day. Uh, and our second one in Palm Springs opened December 16th of 1998. So it's been 25, 26 years now.
Right. So over the years, menu changed or still staying quite Mediterranean in theme?
Well, we've always evolved. As the world gets smaller, ingredients become more readily available, but our core philosophy really hasn't changed. Exhibition kitchen, wood burning oven, wood burning charcoal fired grills and planchas and rotisseries and exhibition kitchens. And we're still Mediterranean influence. The wood burning oven does more than classic Italian style, Neapolitan style pizzas. We bake pastas in there and bread. I mean, even the pita bread we do for some of our Lebanese dishes is from scratch from my grandmother's recipe. It's baked in the wood oven. Um, so the core is still the same, but as ingredients become more readily available and markets shift and change and tastes change, we evolve with the times. But we haven't evolved in terms of our ethos and our core concept and brand of who we are. That hasn't changed. So, but we play with the seasons and ingredients, and we're always trying to we stay still fresh after all these years. And it's not just a marketing slogan for us. I think we have an obligation to, you know, introduce things, and a lot of what we do has to stay traditional to, items that have been on the menu for decades. They're still popular. Our guest wants them. It's not about what I want. It's about what our guests want, and not about what we think they want. It's about testing it and asking them questions and listening to our guests. You know, we really have to deliver what they want, not what we want. So.
Now, Kaiser Grill Palm Springs has been DiRōNA awarded since 2008, but you have a second location. Where's that at?
It's in Carmel. It's a famous place, the Hog's Breath Inn, Carmel by the Sea. It's been around 55 years or so. Clint Eastwood, our dear family friend, started it in 1970. My dad and I took it on in 1998. And we've got something really exciting up there. It's been, like I said, 54 plus years and hasn't seen any real capital investment or reinvestment, and it's time. And so we're having some fun, what I call revitalizing a restaurant that's fairly well worn. But the trick is doing so in a way where we capture, retain, and enhance the spirit and the soul of the restaurant. We can't turn it into something else. It can't look like a brand new, shiny restaurant that's been reincarnated. It's got to have the same soul and core that it's always had for 54 years, because it's part of the legend and part of what it means to, not just our dear friend, but the community as well. So that's the real trick, and I keep telling the design team and the contractors, look, it's better to patch the floor than it is to put a new floor down. And they're finally starting to figure out that it's, that's part of who it is. It's part of the charm of the place. So.
And no doubt part of the soul of both locations being around for decades must be the staff. I assume you must have had staff with you for many years.
Oh my gosh, a chef in Palm Springs started as literally a prep cook and a dishwasher with us in our very first restaurant in Palm Desert in 1992 when we opened. And he's been well trained and well exposed to some really strong culinary talents. And he's a great technician, so his food is consistent. He's strong. He's like a son to me. And I've got cooks in our restaurant that have been with us since the day we opened, and it's no different in the Carmel restaurant. I mean, so many of our staff, and they're the heart and soul of our business. I have the fun job. I get to say, here's where we're going. And they've got to figure out how to make it happen. So, but I could tell you countless stories, Scott, about staff loyalty and what they mean to us. And, it's the spirit of our restaurants or our employees. I can't cut every steak anymore. I can't expedite every order. I can't shake every hand, but, through them, we can touch every guest in a powerful and meaningful way. And that's always our goal. And more importantly than my goal, that's how they live. We're lucky. We've got that kind of staff that allows us to do the things we do at a high level. So they deserve the credit.
No doubt your heart and soul from your previous generations that have led you so deeply into the restaurant industry. What's next in the family succession for the restaurants? Are there children or nieces and nephew involved with you?
Well, I'm not done yet. Let's start there.
No doubt, but there must be a succession plan.
I've got a couple irons in the fire. But I have a niece, a nephew that are very, very bright. They happen to like the business. What path they choose, that's up to them. But I obviously have a little bit of a voice and a little bit of influence on them. I have a godson that was raised in the business. He's got an incredible eye for the restaurant details, all the small details that really make a difference. It's not doing anything 100% better or 1,000% better. It's about doing 1,000 things 1 or 2% better. And my godson Riley has that, so he's part of the plan. But you know, uh, my dad lived to be 90 plus, and he was involved and engaged to the very last day. And I don't have any plans of letting the reins go yet either. It's still fun. I still think I can make a difference, and as long as it's fun and exciting, and I think that I can still touch people and create experiences and cultivate staff and coach and teach. I'm going to stick around a while, but I've decentralized a lot over the last few years too. Uh, it's good for them too to grow and learn and have responsibilities and accountability. So, it's a team sport.
And I'm sure you want to pass on your values and care and consideration for quality into the next generation, no doubt. Tell me, Palm Springs, you must balance a bit of not only community but tourism, being such a renowned location in California. Do you find that comes into any of your day-to-day decisions on menu, themes, events?
Oh, absolutely. Both of our markets, Carmel to a strong degree, and Palm Springs to an even more powerful degree, are highly seasonal. They're resort economies, so they're always based on travel, tourism, and hospitality. Uh, but with that said, the travel visitors, whether they're conventions, conferences, trade shows, leisure traveler, which is a sterile term I hate because everybody's an individual, but they want to go where the locals go. So, we have to execute on a daily basis, whether it's 125 degrees in July in Palm Springs or, one of those perfect 70-degree days in February or March. The goal is still the same, deliver outstanding experiences, but economically and menu mix, we have to adjust and adapt to the volume. And we do. Sometimes it's not easy. I mean, we're in the dog days of summer in the desert now. I'm doing literally 20%, 25% of the sales we would do in March. So you have to adjust. And the staff has to adjust too. That's the unpleasant part of the job is, the menu engineering, the scheduling, and telling people that need to work 4 days a week that you just don't have the hours. And, we managed to stay open even though smarter people might close and say we'll lose less money by closing in the summer. But, I've got employees that have families and responsibilities. So we bite the bullet, so to speak, and, do what we can to, manage our way through it and keep our staff working. So it's not easy, but it fluctuates. The volatility of the seasons it's always a challenge. And, it's part of my background. I grew up in resort economies, chaired the convention bureau and all those kind of things. So you learn what the trends are and hopefully you grow from them. You adapt and, you know, tell your staff in March, say, summer's coming, start saving your money. So, and I've been blessed to see the economic upturns and downturns, and I have a feel for it. So we try to stay ahead of it and, try to, coach our staff to stay ahead of it too. And, develop programs that appeal to the guest base at the moment in time. So, you do what you can, and sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you have to adjust a little bit. So,
Now, California tourism wine industry must play a bit of a role. Big demand for California wines on your wine list at both locations. Does that come into play?
yes, there is even more so in Carmel because Carmel is surrounded by its own wine country from Paso Robles to Monterey County and areas north and east. So our wine list in Carmel is heavily focused on local wineries, and when we reopen after our remodel, we're going to go literally 100% in that direction. We're already local ingredients wherever we go, and all of those things. They're not buzzwords. They make a qualitative difference in the guest experience and what we're serving. So we don't do it because it looks good on our website. We do it because it produces a better product and a better guest experience. But even in Southern California, we have Italian and Australian and New Zealand and all that. But our primary focus being in California is always going to be, local first.
For sure. Now, were you familiar with the DiRōNA Award before it was presented to the restaurant in 2008, especially such renowned restaurateurs right across California, from Bruno Serrato, Ted Ballesteri, Chef Bert Gattino. There's so many in California. Were you familiar with DiRōNA when it was presented to you in 2008?
I was familiar, but I'm obviously a lot more intimately knowledgeable today after being honored after a decade and a half plus. So certainly I was aware of it, but now I'm more aware and hopefully a little more engaged. So
Fantastic. Well, it's special restaurants like the Kaiser Grill that keep us doing what we do every day to make sure that the patrons, not only there in California, but patrons around the world, know of great dining experiences that you and your team certainly provide there. So we're grateful for you and the hard work and effort that goes into the day-to-day operations of a restaurant of your magnitude.
well, I appreciate that and I thank you for it. But I'm one cog in a bigger wheel, but there's a universal truth that I think ties most of the higher end independents together, and we think differently than the big chains do and the corporations. Not that they don't have their formula, not that I'm arguing against them, I'm not, but our ability to personalize all of the details, I think it becomes more important, not less important, as guests become more educated. The internet's made a wealth of information available to our public that they didn't always have, and I think that our ability to uh, expose the guest to that and really take care of those smaller details really sets us apart in many powerfully meaningful ways. Now it doesn't mean anything if staff can't deliver on that promise, but we all there's a bond that unites us, and I think that bond is philosophical and frankly spiritual in some ways. That you know, bigger operations, larger multi-unit operations, they can't think that way. And I say that as a guy that, my early management career, I was with Marriott. I learned so much from them about corporate structure and systems and policies, and I can't thank them enough. But, you know, we don't run by policy manuals that sit on a shelf. We run through people that, you know, you can't teach a cook to cook from a policy manual, you know.
Well, to those that have joined us on this episode, be sure when you're next in Palm Springs, California, Kaiser Grill, DiRōNA awarded, and make sure to make your way there to find Lee Morcus. Lee, thank you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I know we spent countless hours through the pandemic discussing solutions and worked with the teams in Napa and Monterey and such to work on government regulation that kept you closed more than any other state, I believe. Thank you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thanks, and don't get me started on the government because this call will never end. everything they tend to touch, they tend not to make better. But I'll end it right there. And thank you for your time as well.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you everyone for watching. Always a pleasure to have you here at Every DiRōNA Has a Story.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate the great work you're doing on behalf of our community as well. It's meaningful and important, so I thank you for that.
Thank you, Lee.